What is up, everyone? It's TyranitarTube and welcome back to another Pokemon Sun and Moon video. This is the second part to a list of leaks that have surfaced on the internet. If you haven't seen the first part, don't worry, you can check it out at the end of this video. But until then, let's move on to these leaks. Moving on, there are more Poké Ride features to be revealed, including several mini-games featuring different Pokemon. So Poké Ride was that feature. It was like soaring in the sky, but you can ride more on your Pokemon. Using the Flute to soar in the sky was sort of like a prototype to this, being able to fly on Latios or Latias. But Poké Ride pretty much gives you that with bonus features. So being able to ride on like a Tauros, you can break through rocks. Being able to ride on a Sharpedo, you can move faster. You get the gist of it. So, Alolan Arcanine can be ridden on hot waters. Arcanine zigzags get replaced with wavy patterns, and the tufts of fur on its paws look like waves. Look at that. They show you an Alolan Arcanine here. These are the small waves that swirl around when it runs. I pointed this out before, but the features of a fire Pokemon, the flames, shouldn't exist on a water Arcanine. So, they've of course been turned into water features. We can all envision how an Alolan Arcanine will look like, a water Arcanine will look like. We just gotta see the gameplay. Mountains can be climbed with an as of yet unseen rock bug type spider monkey. Okay. There's also a mini game where you have to avoid falling boulders, which is the only way to catch a Alolan Golem without trading? Hold up. So of course the only way to trade a Golem. Whoa. If I trade a Golem from a Alola to a different game, it's gonna turn into a normal Golem. I gotta get a Golem from somewhere else and trade it to Alola. Or I gotta trade it between Alola. That's interesting. Trade Pokemon affecting those Alolan form changes. But the way this sounds, there's supposed to be like this legendary Alolan Golem just waiting in a cave, and I guess you can just go and catch it. It makes sense falling boulders if in one game it would be like Alolan Golem, and in the other game you would have that like psychic type Alolan Machamp. I mean, Golem and Machamp make a perfect duo, and they don't have Mega Evolution. Imagine on top of this if they gave it Mega Evolutions. Hippowdon can be rode in a sand dungeon where players will have to avoid Sandygast and Sand? Hold on. I can see Poké Ride being something in the game, not just being a feature like soaring in the sky, but actually playing a role. You see it with the Tauros, you know, you can see that it allows you to access different areas and maybe get more items. But I feel like this makes sense that you have to use Poké Ride to actually get through some parts of the game. So if you guys remember the Relic Castle where if you went into the spinning sand spots, you'd be dragged down. Same thing with this. We saw in the trailers, in the gameplay where you chuck the Pyukumuku, you saw the Sandygast trying to grab you in the overworld. And one, maybe they do battle you if you go to the spot, but two, they might drag you to the underground floor, and maybe you need a Hippowdon in order to like actually get around. Visualize this. Remember the Articuno puzzle in the original games? Imagine you fall into this dungeon and all that current water is replaced with quicksand. You need that Hippowdon to go around and get to whatever's at the end of the dungeon. That's what I see when I think of this. But I really like this feature, being able to ride on your Pokemon and do things. It actually seems to replace HMs, so maybe early on you have to use HMs to cut trees, but like halfway through the game you have an alternative, which is just using like a Tauros to knock it down. It would make it challenging and puzzling in the beginning, but then it doesn't get tedious by the end of the game. But on top of that, also being able to ride Pokemon for different reasons. They have a strong suit in being ridden, so like I said, Sharpedo moves faster, which was hinted in the Oraz games. I'm just excited to see so many more. Like, the Pokedex entries really do come into play. If you look back to earlier Pokedex entries, look, this is from Ruby and Sapphire. Exeggutor originally came from the tropics. Its head steadily grows larger from exposure to strong sunlight. It literally tells you Alolan Exeggutor's existence here. I'm not saying Alolan Exeggutor existed all this time, but I'm saying that the evolution that they're given to each of these Pokemon aren't as posed. They actually relate to their Pokedex entry. So if there's some sort of Pokemon like a Tyranitar that can climb and scale the mountainsides, then hell yes, I'm gonna see the freaking Godzilla scene reenacted. It's getting better and better. The Totem Pokemon. So according to this, there are 4 Totem Pokemon. The first one is Gumshoes, the second one is Lurantis, then Wishiwashi, and an unrevealed pure fire type looking pig that has lava flowing all over its body. This is a little odd because the way I remember the right challenges in Sun and Moon, it's spread across the 4 islands. So these are the 4 Totem Pokemon of each island. You got the Gumshoes of one island, a giant Lurantis, a giant Wishiwashi, and then this giant pig. Whoa, check it out. So this is actually the Sun Pokemon here on the left. It's like this. It's like young Sesame Street bird. Has a little sister Lisa, who's cousins with Zapdos, and maybe even with Hitmonchan. I can't explain the flower though. So I believe this image on the right is not the artist's interpretation, but the leaker's interpretation. This is what he saw. Apparently this pig is what it looks like. I can't make much out of it. It's just dripping in lava. I don't know. I can believe the design, but I gotta see it in gameplay. And finally, we move on to the new Pokemon. So Komala evolves once into a more bear-looking Pokemon called Hibernate. God damn it, dude. And when it doesn't sleep on the log, it throw it around. So if you guys remember, this is actually Komala. This is the koala Pokemon. And apparently it evolves into a koala that throws its log. You gotta admit, that is the most badass thing to see a koala sleeping on the log, and then it gets you and beats you up with the log. And it also makes sense with Komala's ability being the fact that it goes to sleep. Like, maybe this thing would have 2 phases. What if they introduce phases in Pokemon? Like, what if Komala switches between phases? In one phase he's sleeping, and then another phase he's got it in his hand. Honestly, phases in Pokemon might complicate it a bit, so maybe they should just keep it to Solgaleo and Lunala. So Pikipek has 2 evolutions, becoming more streamlined as it evolves and gaining Steel type in its final stage? You're lying to me, Foul Drill? You don't tell me Pikipek goes into Foul Drill. The middle stage is known as Perfoul. There's apparently a sub-quest in the game that requires the player to explore Alola and find different markings left on trees by the Pokemon. So okay, yeah, Pikipek is a woodpecker. That's an interesting touch if it left these messages and markings across the Alola region and you gotta find them. But if you're telling me that Pikipek goes from a normal flying to a steel flying, that is badass. It makes sense because if you're a woodpecker, to turn into a drill is next level. Alright, you're taking that tree down today. Pepperot is Bounsweet's evolution and gains fire type when it evolves. This thing turns into a pepper? The last time we got leaks about this Pokemon, the talk came up for a Pokemon called Bounce Sour. So like maybe a Pokemon for when this thing goes sour. Like it act like a Shedinja almost when this thing evolved. But apparently this thing evolves into a pepper. Into a grass fire pepper? Oh my god, a grass fire pepper. That is good. I like that. That's one of the few ways you can make a grass type gain a fire type. And pretty realistically, Tortonator has a pre-evolution called Krakatuga. It has a weak spot / button on its stomach. Why do you have a button? You're like Stuffle with the tag. So obviously, you know, Tortonator has a weak spot on its front side. So we were thinking that maybe this thing could also have a phase shift and switch between having its back to you and having its defenses up and then having it face you with its offenses up. I get the button concept because this is just like a detonating Pokemon. This is like, it's honestly freaky as hell. Like you're just going through the mountains and you see this exploding ass Pokemon. Like, all this thing does is just go through the mountains and explode. So this is actually what Perfoul and Foul Drill are supposed to look like. You can see the transition when you look at its second stage, so how Pikipek has to end up to that thing. And I would honestly be so happy if this is actually the outcome of Pikipek, because it looks too much like a fletchling. And it also has that leadership-looking appearance, like the Pidgeot look, the Staraptor look. It's got the pack leader look. And this is Pepperot, so this is supposed to be the grass fire pepper Pokemon. Not much to look at here, but you're like bursting out of the Bounsweet, which is scary as hell. But guys, I saved the best for last because this leaker has also provided pictures of how the supposed starter evolutions have to look. So starting off is Rowlet's evolution. As you can see, it looks like an archer. It still holds its wing up. It still looks like it would use it as a bow. And if you look behind it, it looks like it actually has an arrow. Litten's evolution really does look like a center stage between that really panther looking Pokemon we saw. And it's holding on to its belt. It looks like it's supposed to be its tail that's just wrapped around, but it's got the wrestling look, which is what the more credible leaks earlier said it should be. And then finally, you got Poplio. Listen, it looks so weird, but there's something about it that looks so cool. This thing really does look like, of course, the stage between the final Siren that we saw. Aside from the fact that Rowlet really does look like Sewaddle or whatever that bug Pokemon is, I like how these look. These really do remind me of like the second stage evolutions for like Gen 2. This is like the best way to deal with Poplio's evolution. But if you guys don't know, these actually are supposed to match up with the leaks that we got of their final evolution. These leaks also talked about how Rowlet is going to be an archer, how Litten is going to be a wrestler, and how Poplio is going to be a siren, and that is exactly what they are here. These three, I would love to see these three in gameplay as their evolutions. This might trigger some people, so they'd probably have to make this guy a fire dark type if they were to introduce him, just so nobody yells at them. You put that belt down. Honestly, put this thing beside Pignite. He just looks like a Pignite that just worked out. Didn't skip leg day, didn't even skip belt day. But anyways, guys, that is all of the leaks. Now, there's so many discussed here. Alolan Pokemon, Alolan forums, new features coming in, and even Sync Revolution. A bunch of things were discussed in this video. Even phases, like different phases of the day affecting the different phases for Pokemon like Solgaleo and Lunala, and also possibly leading to different evolutions. So I want you guys to speculate on it. Let me know what you think about these different Alolan Pokemon and whether they make sense to you, because the Muk, the Weezings, the Golems, the Machamps, they all work together perfectly, and it would make sense as they're focusing on Gen 1. It's honestly so epic because on top of all this leak didn't mention anything about Mega Evolutions. There's so much just coming in Sun and Moon, so that's why I make sure we speculate and have fun with each of these smaller things so that when Mega Evolution does come, you know, we're not bored of these things. Oh, don't forget they mentioned permanent weather in some spots that might actually lead to Alolan Pokemon being formed. Like, permanent weather might be the source of these Alolan Pokemon. There's so many ideas just thrown in these leaks. It shows the different directions Pokemon can take this. Even if you guys are like on the road and you want to share something with me, you can tweet it to me, you can Instagram it to me. Just let me know any speculation you got because these are so fun to look at. So anyways, guys, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And as always, guys, keep playing, keep laughing, and keep believing. See you in the next video. Peace.